Welcome to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. This is a podcast dedicated to educating and empowering women from preconception, pregnancy, birth, and through early motherhood on wellness lifestyle. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and I'm a maternity pediatric chiropractor as well as mother who has hand-selected experts in natural holistic healthcare specialties to shine light on options and choices during this exciting phase of a woman's life. And today's episode focuses on the ancient and holistic healing rituals for the modern woman. And I had the honor and privilege of interviewing my guest, Nikki Bostwick from The Fullest. Nikki is the founder and editor-in-chief of The Fullest and host of the FULLEST Podcast. She's always been passionate about providing wellness content that offers a perspective outside the mainstream narrative, one that is holistic, diverse, and inclusive. Since launching, Nikki has grown The Fullest to include a daily digital platform, a podcast, a botanical product line, and a wholesale business alongside her amazing team. Nikki has been in the wellness scene for over 10 years. After receiving a Bachelor of Science in Entrepreneurship, she studied plant-based foods at Matthew Kenney Culinary, is Reiki and yoga certified, and has traveled with wellness pioneer David Wolfe to Peru and Iceland. And you can check out her business at thefullest.com. Hi, Nikki. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. So I'm really excited to share with my listeners about the topic of ancient and holistic healing rituals for the modern woman. And we'll just start off with you can tell a little bit about yourself and essentially how you are passionate about this topic.
Yeah, so I am a first generation Iranian American. So that means I was born here and my parents were immigrants, and I didn't speak English until I was 5 years old. So it was really, my whole family immigrated here. So I didn't even realize that other people spoke English. I just thought Farsi was the language, and I was really embedded into the lifestyle of our culture before going to school and learning English and becoming a little bit more Americanized and my family as well. As the years went on, they let go a little bit of our culture and started moving more towards just different, we celebrated all the holidays like everyone else. And they started slowly leaving the traditional Iranian medicine practices and going towards trusting more the pharmaceutical industry. So I felt like I have this background in terms of my upbringing and understanding these traditional methods that ancient cultures have used. And then, then going towards pharmaceuticals. My parents weren't really interested at all, and they were really opposed to me taking Adderall, but I was prescribed Adderall and told I had ADD. And so that kind of was the start of my journey of going the more medicalized route.
Mm-hmm. How old were you when that happened?
Well, when I was in high school, they didn't let me go on it. And then when I went off to college, I went on it. And so I didn't take any prescriptions until I started taking birth control, because that was kind of, the thing that we were told to do, right? My mom didn't necessarily teach me that you can only get pregnant a few days out of the month and you can track your cycle and all that. But that's because I, as a first generation Iranian American, I was all into the American brands. I didn't want to eat, I loved it when I was younger. And then I kind of rebelled and I didn't want to eat that food. And I liked fast food and I liked all these other things. And it made me, took me farther away from my intuition and my body. That's really what I believe is happening when people are going more towards that convenience, the convenience foods, right? So and
not to mention at that age, you wanted to fit in, right? With your friends, you wanted to do with the,
I that was something I struggled with my whole life, because when I went to school when I was 5, I would bring garlic yogurt to school. My mom's like, don't take it. And I'm like, I'm taking it. I love it. And then no one wanted to sit next to me. So I went from the age of 5 to the age of 15 or 16. I was really all about fitting in. And what I want to share is, and I went through a really tough time with my parents' divorce. I'm a child of divorce, and they basically from the age of 7 were on and off until actually I was 16 or so, and then another 15 years of battling. So I was like constantly in the middle of like the battle. And what I found through my journey, I ended up with Hashimoto's. I was bulimic. I went through a really tough period, teenage years. And what brought me back to myself is these rituals. I started randomly. I woke up one day and I was like, I had gotten in trouble at school or something. So I was home and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't be on my phone, nothing. So I said to my mom, I was 14 at the time. I said to my mom, hey, and it was like 5:30 in the morning. I woke up and something told me I need to go to yoga. And it was so weird. I'd never been to yoga before. And I went into her room. I said, hey, Mom, can you take me to this thing? It's called yoga. I think I need to go there. She was like, okay. So she drove me to the yoga class down the street. And it was my first experience of incorporating these like ancient rituals back into my life. So I started with yoga. It completely transformed my my relationship with my body. At the time I was bulimic, and I then, started to appreciate my body. I started to really move, take care of myself. I didn't want to do those things anymore, right? And then I started paying attention to my food. I was vegetarian at the time, but then I later became vegan. And then I went to culinary school for raw food. That taught me a lot about like just foundational foods and really like whole foods and the importance of them, like not processed. But it wasn't right for me and my body and my ancestry, because I'm more into like the warm foods like Ayurveda, and those foods were really not good for my thyroid. Like if you think of like a bunch of raw kale and cruciferous vegetables and stuff, it's like the opposite of what you need to heal your thyroid. And my thyroid condition was probably a result of just feeling helpless during my parents' divorce, the bulimia, again, so much going on in the throat chakra. And I was able to heal my Hashimoto's naturally, actually through, first of all, bathing. So we'll get into like the bathing ritual. It's been something that, obviously dates back to like before Cleopatra, right? Like we're talking about Cleopatra bathing as an aphrodisiac, as a beauty ritual. It's so hydrating. It's so wonderful for the body. It's an anti-inflammatory, depending on what you put in there. So part of our line is a saffron bath soaks. We have milk baths and salt baths. That's what we offer at the Fullest, because when I started seeing my physician, he told me I need to start taking baths multiple times a week because my body was completely inflamed. And we did a baking soda and salt bath that was so healing for my symptoms. And what was incredible about the baking soda component to the bath was baking soda not only is great for like balancing pH levels in the body, but it also has been said to help like remove spiritual blockages. And I think the mental state goes hand in hand with like our physical symptoms. So when we're trying to like unlock healing, I really believe they need to be done in tandem. All the mental health work, all the therapy, along with the other things like supplements, or I'm typically, the reason we're having this conversation, I'm a huge fan of doing these rituals because it supports the body's innate ability and want to heal itself. Whereas I would say like supplements are like complementary to that. But first we want to get to the root. When we're taking vitamin D and magnesium and melatonin and all these things and adding it to our ritual, if we're not doing it with a doctor and reading our levels, it's just random, right? They're still like vitamin D is a hormone. So it's like nice to go back to basics and then do the other stuff on top. But in my opinion, like if you live in Southern California or if you live somewhere that's sunny, like go outside and walk for 20 minutes, you'll get the vitamin D that you need and you don't need to supplement. And it's nice to instead focus on your daily, monthly, weekly practices that are supporting your overall well-being, because that's where real change is going to happen, is like your lifestyle. And then the supplements are kind of on top of that, in my opinion. And so
that's so true. It is really like these new habits, right? These lifestyle habits, they're ongoing. You don't do it like once in a while. It becomes like this, a ritual is indicative of something you're doing on a consistent, regular basis.
yeah. So I found that that was the best way for me to heal. I healed my Hashimoto's naturally just through rituals. I don't have any more antibodies today. And I found like I've gone through it all, just, being in the wellness industry. I'm sure you'll have that same experience, like trying things like biohacking was such a thing for a while and like people are getting into. But for me, and what I really like was inspired to start the Fullest for this reason, because I'm so inspired to share with women to like go back and check in with themselves and like tap back into their intuition, because there's so much information out there. And every day there's like, this is bad for you. This is bad for you. You shouldn't do this, or this is really good for you. And this is what's intermittent fasting. There's paleo, there's keto, there's Whole30. Whole30 is great, but it's like, what works for you and what makes sense for you? Like, for example, for me, I've read all the research on intermittent fasting. I've tried it. I think it is great for men and some women. But for me, someone who has a past of having an eating disorder, it's like the worst thing I can do. I like start to stress. I only have this period of time to eat food. Like you start to binge. It's really harmful for, especially like what stage of life you're in as a woman. Maybe menopausal women, maybe that works for them, but maybe women that are fertile on their period and they're trying to like manage their cycle, maybe it's not the best for us when we're younger.
Or certainly somebody trying to get pregnant, right? Exactly. All of these things. Yeah. You make a good point. There's a lot of there's great information out there, but it's really back to that intuition, like really getting connected to your body and what does my body need? And that can change from day to day. And that's okay to give yourself permission, right? To work out differently based on where you're at in your cycle. So, so it's just check. So how do you check in and see what your body needs every day?
I love checking in based off of my cycle. And like, that's because, I have 2 kids, right? So I felt like when I was pregnant, I did things differently. I did Pilates, right. And then at the, just like when you're pregnant, at the end of your pregnancy, you might do different workouts than the beginning. And I think that as women, we need to remember to check back in, because our cycle is the same way. When I'm on my period, I don't like to work out the first few days, and I just don't do well with it. And especially because I'm not wearing a tampon anymore. And so when I actually wear like either pads or reusable period underwear that I can just like toss out, that's organic. So when I do that, it's like uncomfortable for me to do a workout unless I'm just like doing something very gentle, stretching. Even then, I don't want to necessarily force things out. So I like wait until like the 3rd day. But then sometimes I really like a really nice energetic workout, and I'm going to go for it because I feel good. I feel energized. I might be, like 14 days out from the start of my cycle. That's like really, really energetic timing for me specifically to start, incorporating more like high intensity. But I used to like strength train all the time. And I was like that person that was like, wake up at 4 a.m., strength train at 5 a.m. every single day of the week. And I was like really obsessed. My body was so inflamed. I worked out so much more than I do now. And I weighed more. Not that weight is indicative of like health, but I looked inflamed. And then when I switched to brisk walking and to yoga or Pilates, it really changed my body. And I used to teach yoga, so I'm just such a big fan of yoga and the ritual of it and the practice. But I went away from it for a little because I was like, I need to run. I need to do, I was very type A before my kids. So, and when you have kids, you're just like, it's out the window. You just have to surrender. And that's like it's been really healing for me, and like brought this like softness to my life that I never had. And it's inspired me to like, you know, share that aspect of my journey too, because I think it's just going back to this idea of like meeting yourself where you're at, and everyone's different. Like I was in a yoga class yesterday and I was like, we're all experiencing different things in our lives. We're all at different parts of our cycle. We're all different people. Like someone might be going through major trauma right now and they just need like something gentle. Someone might, you know, need something more energetic because they're whatever they're going through. So I think that it's that idea of women having like that feeling empowered really to check back into their intuition. Because for me, for so long, I feel like I outsourced that. And then when I started working with my doctor, one time he said to me, Nikki, like, just go home and like, it was like before I had kids, I didn't have a period for 9 months when I had Hashimoto's. And he talked to me and he's like, I was like raw at the time, like it wasn't working for me. And he was like, just go home and eat everything. And like, he knew I was like not going to go to processed foods, but it was like, he needed to tell me. I was afraid of eating like a banana. Okay. Like there was like bulimia turned into orthorexia, you know? And so he said to me, and he's the type of guy that tells people, don't eat gluten, don't eat like fish. If you're doing this, don't eat this type of dairy. Like he really is into diet as like lifestyle and stuff like that. But to me, he didn't say that. And
right, because of your eating disorder history.
Yeah. So then I started incorporating bone broth and like all that stuff because I was vegan at the time. Right. So I thought to myself, why is it that I had to wait for a doctor to tell me, you know, it's like, why did the doctor, I knew this intuitively. I knew maybe I should start incorporating bone broth. I knew the raw food didn't feel well with my digestion. Like I knew it on some level, but it wasn't until I went to the best doctor that I finally trusted him. Whereas other people had told me very similar information, but I was like, no, it was like this block. And so at that moment I was like, oh my gosh, you don't need to have someone else tell you. You can really tap in. You know yourself better than anyone else.
That's right.
And so these ancient rituals that I talk about, part of the reason why I love them so much is because they heighten that ability to tap back into your intuition. They make you like able to, like vaginal steaming, for example.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Vaginal steaming, I'm such a huge fan. Obviously, we have our own like kit on our website.
You even have a stool. I was impressed by that.
You know, I want to make it as accessible, and sometimes accessibility just means ease of use, right?
Yes,
so
right.
For us, it's like, you know, instead of squatting over something for 10 or 30 minutes, now you can just sit over it and you can just relax into it. I started incorporating vaginal steaming into my practice postpartum, and that's how I got into it. I did it with both my children, and then I started really diving deep into the healing benefits regardless of where you're at, right?
Yeah. How soon after giving birth did you do that?
It depends on everyone. You know, everyone's birth is different, but I recommend like 4 or 5 days after.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So really quickly, because you're healing the tender tissues that may have been stretched and torn.
From a vaginal delivery, correct? Yeah.
And you don't want to do it like until you have to wait 6 weeks if you had surgery.
Okay.
So, but it's still very healing. It helps the womb go back into place. So regardless, you want to be doing it.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't have vaginal delivery, but you know, your womb is contracting at that time, everything's trying to go back into place. You want to cleanse everything out because those 40 days postpartum is a womb cleanse, just like how our period is a womb cleanse.
Right.
So yeah, I got really into it. I love Steamy Chick so much. If you've ever heard of her, she shares a lot about vaginal steaming. She has courses. So I took her peri-steam hydrotherapy course just to really dive in and be knowledgeable. If we're going to launch a product, I want to know everything about it. Like I know so much about saffron. It's part of my lineage. It's part of my culture. I went to raw culinary school, so I knew how to like formulate product. So I've incorporated that into my business, but I really want to make sure I'm an expert, and I ask and look to experts before we bring something to market. And with vaginal steaming, one thing that I think is like really important for women that I had never knew until I took this course, until I started incorporating it, was the most optimized period in terms of like cycle length actively menstruating is 4 days. And you want it to be fresh red blood. Any sort of brown blood is old residue. And so It's a sign from your body that you're not properly cleansing everything out. When you steam, it helps loosen that from the uterine lining. And so if you're steaming right before your period starts, because you don't want to steam while you're on your period, then it helps get everything out. And that's what helps prevent cramps. I used to
because you help break up the clots, right?
Exactly. And I think we've normalized so many of these symptoms that we have on our periods. And it's like, it's just, I don't want to shame anyone, make anyone feel bad about what their period is like, but I used to be out for 1 to 2 days just on my bed because I had horrible cramps and a really heavy flow. So when I found this information out and when I started incorporating it into my practice, it changed my life, and it helped me be a better parent because I was able to like be a more active during those days, right? Like there's so much that's required of you, or anything else that I wanted to show up for. I feel like there's like vaginal steaming, and then there's like the womb care that also needs to be incorporated. Like I said, tampons, we want the blood to flow out. So tampons get that blood stuck in in our cervix, in our womb, in our uterus. So we want to make sure that the blood is able to flow out and we don't stop it. So that also
it's so funny. I just recently switched from tampons to period underwear that I wash every month. Mm-hmm. And I'm just obsessed with, I got Thinx. And I was just like, oh my God, I could have had these for 10 years now. And like, you know, would have already paid for themselves. You know what I mean? It's just, right? You know, they would have been great after I gave birth. Like that was an aha moment. So yeah, these things are great, you know, and they're, you know, women have like, oh, is there odor? No, there's no odor. You know, they don't leak. Like they work really well. You have different levels of absorbency depending on what day, you know, you're at in your cycle. But, you know, back to like blocking that blood flow, we also, if you're using non-organic tampons, you're putting all these chemicals and pesticides into your vaginal wall, and it's absorbing all these toxins into your body. And then, you know, even organic products, all of this is ending up in the landfill. So it's just not good for the environment either.
Yeah. And also during that time period, like we put tampons in because, I mean, granted, like obviously if I have something planned and I'd have to do it, it's like, okay, I'm going to put a tampon.
If you're going to go swimming,
I'm going to go swimming or something happens, but I try not to plan anything for my cycle. And like the more you're aware of when your cycle is, you can try and pre-plan those trips or those things as well. It's just a matter of like getting your cycle regular. And then you can start to kind of fine tune those things and maybe not plan for that. But we're really meant to rest during that time. And the tampon is like enabling us to kind of like still be go, go, go.
Keep going. Yeah. That's
and we're like, other cultures make it like a really big deal and that's like been ancient cultures. So many different cultures make it a big deal for women to take that time for themselves and to ask for support. And I think so many of us were afraid of asking for help, asking for support. I am really grateful I don't have that. I'm always like, I need help. I can't do this by myself. Like it's chaos at my house if it's just me. But yeah, I think that like just, you know, we think, especially as women have gone into the workforce and so much of modern women are doing not just all the household stuff, but also taking care of you know, where you're at. Like you might be taking care of your parents and your kids and you're working. I mean, I see my mom and I see my mother-in-law and even myself, like we're all so busy now because we want to have our hand in everything, which is great. now that we have more rights. But then we also have to remember why these practices were incorporated, because inside out beauty is a thing, inside out wellness. You know, these beauty rituals were wellness rituals. Everything was the same. And that's why I think it's really cool for modern women to incorporate it, because we have the best of both worlds now. Let's just bring this in. And the information, I think, hasn't been brought out to women in a way that it is in other cultures, because we're so far away from midwives too in this country. Like, midwives are the ones that have been able to pass down these traditions. But in this country, in Europe, like 70-80% of people are still using midwives. But in the United States, it's such a small percentage. I don't know the exact percentage. It's growing.
Probably less than 10%.
Yeah, it's really crazy though how it's growing, and COVID helped that and stuff like that. But I think it's still, like you said, such a small percentage compared to other cultures. And it's really cool that health is becoming such a big thing. And I was just actually speaking to the founder of Remedy Place. I don't know if you've heard of it, Jonathan Leary. He's really amazing doctor as well. And he was telling me, and I didn't think about this, and I'm sure, you know, most people probably know this, but to me, I was like, oh my gosh, social media is a big reason why, apparently. So he says and thinks that like a lot of these health practices have come to light, because people are like sharing so much about what they're doing that's alternative, rather than just going to their doctor and asking.
Yes. I would say the internet in general has transformed healthcare. The pandemic also has transformed healthcare. You know, you got to really there's got to be some big hits over the head for people to start making shifts, but it's true. Like, I would say even within chiropractic, I've been practicing 20 years, and I can't tell you how many people in their 20s and 30s are like, oh my God, I want to go to a chiropractor. I want to learn about it. They're excited. They're like, my friend told me about this nervous system thing. I was talking to my guy at the Mercedes dealership today, and he was like, tell me all about it. And I'm like, 20 years ago, young people weren't interested in chiropractic unless they threw their back out, right? Like, it's a paradigm shift, and it's exciting to me because it's people waking up to my doctor is not God, and I don't have them up on a pedestal, and I don't get all of my health information from them. I learn from my friends. I learn from my Facebook friends. I learn. And then I also listen, like, what resonates, what sounds like, hey, I'm interested. I want to learn more about that, because it's lighting something up within me that's telling me this could be helpful for my body. And the other stuff just kind of passes by, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think chiropractic doctors are the best practicing doctors that you could ever find. And I think every time I meet a chiropractor, I'm like, I'm so jealous. I want your training, because it's
I feel very great. You use the word that has been in the chiropractic profession for over 100 years, innate intelligence. That is a chiropractic philosophy since 1895, that the body is always the healer. Always, always, always. It always is the inside out. And that also goes back to these rituals that have been around thousands of years, that there was this knowingness amongst people that the body is healing. And when we do these things preventively and or to treat, we're just supporting that innate intelligence.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so true. So I wanted to have you talk a little bit about castor oil packs, because that is a topic actually I have not covered on my podcast yet.
Oh my gosh. So castor oil packs have been around forever. I mean, it started with the Egyptians, but I believe it was like a doctor in like 1877 or something that started incorporating it as well. And it's such an incredible detoxifier for the liver, which I always find is like a really wonderful place to start with so many people.
Right.
Not just because of pharmaceuticals and diet and lifestyle, but just there's so much emotionally that we hold there too.
Anger. Yeah.
And I think that, like we talked about, a lot of unlocking healing happens when we incorporate that emotional aspect along with the physical aspect of detoxifying. So castor oil, what's incredible about it, not only does it have these amazing compounds in it and active constituents that help with the detoxification, but apparently it holds like all the whole spectrum of like color and light in the oil. And so it really is moving so much in the body. And liver, like castor oil is like typically known for like detoxing the liver, but you can do it all over the body. And you can start, I mean, you can do it every day. It's really calming. So it's something that is like typically done in the evenings, but you can do it any time of the day. And along with like any other type of detoxifying program. And again, like I love it because it's gentle and it helps your body, again, help get to the root and heal itself, giving your body what it needs to heal itself and do the work. But what you want to do sometimes is like put the pack on. So if no one's heard of it, basically what you do is you grab castor oil. You want to get like organic cold pressed castor oil that's hexane free, unprocessed, and you put it on like a wool felt sponge or any sort of like wool cloth. And then you kind of like soak that a little bit, not that it's like dripping, but that it gets like pretty soaked up. And then you put that on that part of your body that you're working on, typically the liver or the pelvic area. And then you wrap that with something. Traditionally, there's like a hot water bottle that's put on, but there's so much DIY stuff that makes it a little like overwhelming. But there are like companies, and we're coming out with our own, that make it really simple to just wrap something over. You can just lie down, you can sleep with it on, and just take in like a full 8 hours, or just do like 45 minutes. When you're first starting, you just want to do like 15 minutes. But basically all you're doing is having your body absorb the castor oil in that specific area. And it helps with scar tissue even. So like it helps with inflammation. It helps again, like when you're working on detoxing. Anytime you detox, you want to make sure it helps you like eliminate as well. So you want to make sure you're getting in like moving through full bowel movements. And if not, then you want a little bit of assistance from maybe an enema or maybe
colonic.
A colonic, or maybe upping your magnesium. Oxygenated magnesium is really great for that, but you want to make sure you're moving that so it's not going back into your body, right? But a really great thing to do is like you can even wrap your thyroid, your eyes, your elbows. Castor oil is like also a really wonderful beauty ritual to increase hair growth for your eyelashes, your eyebrows. It's really like an incredible beauty ritual and medicine. And it's something so gentle that you can do for your children. Like you can rub castor oil on the soles of their feet before bed, and it helps them calm down and go to sleep more easily. I love it.
It is great over the pelvic area, like you were mentioning, like over the uterus, before getting your period, just to also help with that uterine lining release, right? Once you start menstruating, if that lining doesn't fully shed, that's where you'll see that old stagnant blood come in the next cycle. And that's, not natural to have that stick around. You want it to all come out during that period.
Exactly. Just like the steaming helps do that. Same with the castor oil pack, because when you're cramping during your period, like we said, it's like a sign of old residue. Cramping is just contractions of the uterus.
Yeah. The uterus is working so hard to try to get that lining to shed, and it's working harder than it needs to.
Exactly. And
it's so like birthing a lining.
Exactly. And castor oil helps with the contractions. So that's why it's helpful to do prior to, or when you're cramping or have inflammation, to incorporate it. And even like, you have a knee injury or whatever, you can just like wrap in castor oil and really support the body in recovery. Yeah.
Do you ever incorporate herbs with the castor oil packs?
Yes. Yeah. You can infuse different herbs that are really great. Like we like to do saffron. We're huge fans of saffron, chamomile. You can do lavender. So There aren't very many companies that do that, but you can do it yourself.
DIY.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking liver, I'm thinking dandelion root, I'm thinking milk thistle. These are really powerful liver detoxifiers. And there's herbal remedies you can take internally to help move the sludge out of your liver. But it's nice to also incorporate the topical application as well. And the liver is one of the major detox pathways. That is what the liver's job is. So all these are doing is just helping to move those toxins more efficiently through the body. And then to your point, those toxins get dumped into our stool. So we have to make sure that we're having full bowel elimination, or the toxins just get reabsorbed in our body somewhere else.
Exactly. That's why it's such a wonderful combination, the castor oil and enema together. And also, I love that you mentioned herbs, because you're incorporating different elements that we have, right? We have fire, air, water, earth. That's the earth element. And there's so much knowledge in that. That's why I love tea ceremonies, tea in general. The vaginal steaming is like a tea for your vagina, right?
Yes.
This information that we collect from the earth, from these herbs. And not only do they help us physically, like you said, with dandelion root, move to help us detox, but they also help healing in terms of bringing us information that we intuitively can connect with, and it heals trauma, which I love. Vaginal steaming helps trauma survivors, sexual abuse survivors. I mean, there's so much there, not just with the steaming, but all of these ancient practices, bathing, any time that we incorporate the different elements into our rituals, it's all giving us information, which I totally geek out on. And I hate the wind so much, but every time it's super windy, I'm I'm so cold. I don't like it, but I know it's giving my body the information. These cultures, they knew so much. They could tell what the weather was going to be, all that stuff, just intuitively, what was coming, when it was coming, what's happening, what's going on, different parts of the world, because of the information that the earth gave them. And these are ways we can simply incorporate that knowledge into our routine. It's
so true.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. Even, grounding, walking barefoot, on grass or the beach, and just really connecting to the earth. Right. And I mean, that is an ultimate connection. And we do get disconnected when we're wearing shoes or we're indoors and, we're sitting at a desk all day. That's not going to connect us with the earth.
Exactly. I mean, you hear about there was a study done when I was in college. I got into this huge tiff with my best friend in college. She was a public health major, and I was obsessed with Tom's shoes at the time because I was so inspired by their social mission. And I was oh my gosh, they're giving shoes. They need it. And she was no, it's not good. These people are they need the calluses. This is part of the way that their lifestyle is. Then they get used to it. And then we're preventing them. And we're giving them this cycle of just us needing to give them stuff. And it was this whole conversation. And
that's hilarious. And I'm there's no arch support in those shoes.
Yeah, exactly. You're coming from the scientific angle too. As a whole, let's just let it be. And this is the way people were for so long before shoes showed up. And obviously, I'm not saying don't give anyone anything, but I'm just saying, just really taking a step back to think about why we were put here in the way that we were, and that's why so many people are sunbathe your vagina, sunbathe your butt. You're getting information from the sun. It's a whole thing. It's hilarious. And where are you going to do it unless you really have a private area? But it's amazing too, because it's true. We were naked all the time. We were absorbing that vitamin D. We were absorbing so much, the full spectrum of light, right? All of those things. And now we're just clothed indoors with shoes on in really shitty air quality.
Yeah. I'm thinking about, the whole nude bathing and why it is so intelligent and like is unfortunately not really available in a lot of areas to be able to do legally. But there is power with that, right? I mean, there is so much power we get from the sun, right? Like it's another element that we just kind of have almost taken for granted.
Yeah. I know. It's like if we're trying to get energy from the sun through solar power and stuff, so obviously we should be going out there and like, I mean, not that people don't, tan and stuff like that, but really using it as a ritual in that way, rather than just like dousing up the oil and just like sitting out there on vacation,
Right.
I think that part of like chronic illness taking over our body is that we don't incorporate these practices consistently. And that's where the rituals come in. And I think we just always want quick fixes. And like saffron to me is like such an incredible quick fix.
Can you talk a little bit about saffron and how you use it in your daily life?
Yeah. So I've known about it ever since I was young. We always had a saffron tincture in the fridge. My mom would make saffron rice and different desserts with it. And I just love the taste. So I would like down it. And my culture knew it's like the happy spice. That's like what they call it. Mm-hmm. So my mom would be like, you cannot take this tincture. Like this is so much saffron. You will die from laughing. And that was like her whole thing. You're going to giggle too hard. You're going to die from laughing. I was like, there's no way. And I would just take it. And she would get so frustrated because it's like expensive and she'd make so much of it and not be there. And then later on, after, I went to culinary school, I was struggling with ADD as well. And I was always like on the hunt for like natural like replacement for Adderall. And so it all kind of came together, which is really interesting because I finally came across a study that showed that saffron is just as effective. It was a double-blind placebo study sharing that saffron was just as effective as the generic form of Prozac in helping treat anxiety and depression. But it also gave the dosage because like in traditional Iranian food, you're not going to get that dosage. Like they're putting a little bit in the rice. Everyone's having some of that rice.
It's flavoring. Yeah,
exactly. So finally, like there were all these studies done on how much you really need to get that benefit. And it was like a 30 milligram dosage, which is about like 15 threads of saffron. And that's quite a bit. Like that's not what you're going to find, right? If you're like just eating it typically. And so I decided to formulate the latte that was our first product, the saffron latte. It's called Warm Feelings. But we did it with the traditional Chinese medicine dosage, which is 150 milligrams. It's 5 times that dose. What they found is saffron works almost instantly in the body to increase serotonin and dopamine. It's also really, really healing for the gut, the lining. It's an anti-inflammatory. It helps people with IBS. It makes so much sense because 90% of your serotonin is created in your gut. So
that's right.
It makes sense that it would be healing for your gut. And other things, like it's really known, like my doctor actually prescribes it for Alzheimer's patients instead of Alzheimer's medication. There's a lot of things that for some reason, saffron is really great for. The Adderall piece is really interesting because they compared it to Ritalin specifically. And they found it's like the main component in Ritalin is like, it's called methylphenidate. And what methylphenidate does is like basically speed, right? You're just like
cocaine.
And then what saffron does is the complete opposite. It calms down your nervous system. But when you're calm, you're able to focus. And so in the opposite way, it's just as effective, which is super cool. And just like when it's compared to the SSRIs, it's helping your body heal in order to increase its own serotonin and dopamine production rather than being a serotonin dump like what the SSRIs are, like Prozac or anything like that. Because the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, they're just dumping serotonin in your body. They're not helping your body create it. And again, so it's not getting to the root cause. We're just always going to rely on it. Whereas saffron's healing the gut. Saffron's helping the inflammation in your body. Saffron's helping you think better. Saffron's helping you calm down. it's helping you be more consistent with your rituals, you know?
Right. That's very important too, the self-care, right? Like
Yeah,
if there's a lot of anxiety, depression, distraction, then it's very challenging to maintain a lifestyle ritual practice that is serving you, right? It becomes this like a cyclical spiral of, hurt, so to speak. So
exactly.
let me guess, you do a saffron latte every morning and the
Yes.
Adderall's been gone for how many years?
Oh gosh, so long. I mean, 10, 11 years, maybe now.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
It was hard. It was so hard. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like I was bedridden and then like everything
Mm.
hit because the Adderall was masking my Hashimoto's. I was on birth control. Like I stopped it all and I was like, oh my gosh. But luckily I was able to, work, incorporate these rituals into my life, work with a physician. I was able to do all these other things, but it was very hard. And I'm so grateful to be off of it. And saffron, that's how saffron showed up as our first product too. Not only is it part of my ancestry, but being in the wellness space and incorporating it into my own journey, I really knew that the foundation for wellness starts with mental health, like you said.
Yeah.
If you're able to address that, then you're able to do simple things like walking, which walking is also really great, right? It helps with balancing the left and the right brain. You're
Mm-hmm.
healing from trauma. It's been known to be like apparently very effective, similar to EMDR. Not that it takes, away from therapy or anything, but it's really, really helpful. Like walking meditations or just.
I was going to say, it's how you walk, right? Like you could just be walking and like your to-do list, you got all the noise going on.
Yeah.
Or you can be really deliberate, like this is an opportunity for me to clear my mind, to listen to my breath, be ideally in a natural setting, right? And you're connecting to Mother Earth. You're noticing, the breeze, the flowers, the birds, everything around you. And that is the meditation. And that is literally helping to balance the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system for healing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like when you're getting that foundation set up, then you're able to go on, do the regular things like water and walking, like literally water and walking, which walking incorporates earth. And then you start to incorporate all these other things. To me, I start with like the other foundational stuff, castor oil packs, enemas, steaming, and then from there supplementing further,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you're never going to, there's different ways of going about it. There's food, there's all these other ways of getting to the same place, and everyone comes in at different places. But once you're able, like, I really, really want to leave people with this idea of unlocking their healing by incorporating the mental health aspect along with the physical aspect of like these things that you're incorporating to do physically.
Yeah. So every practice you mentioned today could be done from this meditative, conscious, deliberate way. It's not a rush like, okay, I got to, steam my vagina for 10 minutes right now because that's all the time I have in between appointments. And no, it needs to be really like, I'm carving this time out. It's non-negotiable. The kids are with the dad, like whatever you need to do this mama self-care, because it is so important.
Yeah. And as moms, as women, we are so intuitive already. We're more intuitive than our counterparts.
Yes.
We bring life into this world. We're meant to have, there's this like veil that we're connected to, that we're unveiling. We're bringing life into this world. And so we're meant to be that tap into our intuition, which means it's nice to incorporate these practices to help us get there, whether it's yoga, whether it's steaming, whether it's walking, whether it's bathing, whatever it is. You don't need to pay to do it either. A lot of people say it's similar to when people say, I get my best ideas in the shower. It's because you're tapped in, you're relaxed, you feel good. And like, I get my best ideas when I'm steaming and bathing. It's just like the way it is. I'm always just like, oh my gosh. And I love it. And I want to share that with others because people always ask me, you're all about your intuition. How do I tap into it? And it's like, it's all through your practices.
Wow. Nikki, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I feel like that might have been your last words. Do you have anything else you want to
Yeah.
share?
No, that's it. Thank you for listening and thank you for having me on the podcast.
I want to go try one of those saffron lattes. So I just have to go to the web, share about your website and where people can find your products.
Come to thefullest.com. We have editorials. We have so much information there to help support your life, as well as just like holistic information, resources like city guides, other resources like, everything from household cleaning products that we recommend to makeup and other self-care products that we recommend. So everything is on there. Just go to our resources page if you're looking for that information, our city guides, or go to our shop. We have everything from our saffron latte to capsules. If you're into that has pharmaceutical grade saffron proven to help with what I mentioned earlier. Steaming, all sorts of different rituals that can help support you in tapping into your intuition and healing. And I'm just so grateful to be on this journey with you to help you just tune into your own body.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nikki.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed this episode interviewing Nikki. Her and I are quite like-minded in really feeling very passionate about getting holistic healthcare information out directly to women so that they're really feeling empowered about options and choices, and kind of moving beyond the traditional mainstream cultural pressures or experiences or criteria that we've been taught. So definitely go to her website, thefullest.com, to check out her amazing products, listen to her podcast, check out her blog. And I can't wait to go on and order a saffron latte powder so I can mix up some of that warm feelings drink in my own home. And she's so kind to have offered a 15% off discount code for the Well-Adjusted Mama listeners on your first order. When you go to checkout, put in the code WAM15, Well-Adjusted Mama, WAM15, to get 15% off your first order.